Hello, I'm Brian Bowyer, and I would like to thank Brad Proctor for inviting me to participate in his Horror Authors Recommend a Favorite Horror Book video. The book I'm recommending is Wormwood, a collection of short stories by Poppy Z. Bright, published in 1993. Poppy's first book, a vampire novel called Lost Souls, was published in 1992, but I didn't read it until 1997 after I found it in the book section of a huge store called Media Play in Nashville, Tennessee when I was 24 years old. The cover, the title, and Poppy's name intrigued me, so I opened the book, read the first page, and was like, this one's coming home with me. My apartment was on Nolensville Road, right down the street from Media Play, so I took the book home, read it, and was completely blown away. To this day, Lost Souls remains my favorite vampire novel. After that, however, I couldn't find Poppy's other books anywhere. In 1997, you couldn't just pull your phone out and have any book on planet Earth in the palm of your hand with a single click. Back then, as a reader, you were pretty much limited to whatever you could find in a bookstore. 2 years later, in 1999, when I was 26 and living in West Virginia once again, I found myself in one of the two bookstores at the Crossroads Mall in Beckley. There was a Bookland and a Walden Books in the mall at that time. I was in Walden Books, in the horror section, and noticed a teenage girl with black hair, black clothes, and black fingernails standing next to me. She was holding a copy of Lost Souls while perusing some other books. I told her Lost Souls is such an incredible novel. I know, she said. I keep lending it to my friends and never getting it back. I said, I wish I could find some of Poppy's other stuff. The girl shot me a look. There's a copy of Wormwood down at the other bookstore. Thank you, I said, then hurried down to the other store, where I found one copy of Wormwood, took it home, and devoured it. Not this copy, of course. I've lost count of how many copies of Wormwood I've gone through. But even had I not returned to this book numerous times over the past 23 years, there are stories in Wormwood that would still be embedded in my brain nearly a quarter of a century later. In closing, I want to read a passage from The Ash of Memory, The Dust of Desire. In the story, the narrator has a girlfriend named Leah who cheats on him with his friend Cleve. Not only that, but she finds out that she's pregnant and tells him that the baby could belong to either man. When she decides to have an abortion, he goes with her to see the doctor in some old, run-down industrial district of New Orleans. They never find that doctor, however, and instead of a clinic, they end up in an old, abandoned factory. Spoilers ahead. Then the machinery kicked on. Only dimly did I see the first hook lifting Leah up and away from me, as if she had raised her arms and flown. I stood there dumbly for several minutes, unable to grasp what had happened even as her blood fell upon my face and my outstretched hands. A high-heeled shoe dropped to the floor in front of me, missing my head by an inch. I did not move. I stared up at the swirling clouds of dust, up at the figure that hung suspended like an angel in black lace. When the dust cleared, Leah was slumped over, limp, her head hanging upside down, her hair like a bright banner in the dusk of the room. The hook had punched into her back and out through the soft flesh of her abdomen, but her face was perfectly calm. I was calm too, an absolute calm like the equilibrium of particles in a solution. Should I have been frightened? Perhaps. But somehow I knew that even if I walked up to one of the machines and touched it, I would not be hurt. They did not want me. The metal of the hook was beaded with bright blood. On its sharp tip was a thick gobbet, darker than the rest and more solid looking. It looked like nothing but a piece of meat that had ceased to live, or breathe, or suck. I no longer thought I knew something about love. Now I knew what love was all about. I have described the scene to Cleve as well as I could, and asked him to paint it for me. When he has captured it as closely as possible in the jeweled watercolor tones that he loves, we will frame it and hang it on the wall. Sometimes we talk about magic. In a city of millions, an ancient city overcrowded and mean enough, a kind of magic could evolve. Magic happens when and where it wants to. In a great, cruel, teeming city, one could create one's own magic, intentionally or otherwise. Magic to fulfill desires that should remain buried in the deepest pit of the soul, or just to get through the desperate hustle of staying alive from day to day. And out of the desperation, out of the hunger for bread or love, Out of the secret, hard, bright joy at the madness of it all, out of these things something else could be born. Something made of bad dreams and lost love. Something that would use as its agent the abandoned, the forgotten, the all but useless, the love that no one wanted anymore. I go up to the roof of Cleve's building and I look out over the city, and I think about all the power waiting to emerge from its black womb, and I wonder who else will tap into this homegrown magic, and I howl into the wind and rejoice at the emptiness within me. And nowhere else on the horizon have I ever seen so many billions of lights or so many patches of darkness. I'm Brian Bowyer. Thank you for listening to my recommendation of Wormwood by Poppy Z. Bright.